March 23rd, AA Thought for the Day. Strength comes from the fellowship you find when you come into AA. Just being with men and women who have found the way out gives you a feeling of security. You listen to the speakers, you talk with other members, and you absorb the atmosphere of confidence and hope that you find in the place. Am I receiving strength from the fellowship with other AA members? Meditation for the day. God is with you to bless and help you. His Spirit is all around you. Waver not in your faith or in your prayers. All power is the Lord's. Say that to yourself often and steadily. Say it until your heart sings with joy for the safety and personal power that it means to you. Say it until the very force of the utterance drives back and puts to naught all the evils against you. Use it as a battle cry. All power is the Lord's. Then you will pass on to victory over all your sins and temptations, and you will begin to live a victorious life. Prayer for the day. I pray that with strength from God, I may lead an abundant life. I pray that I may lead a life of victory. March 24th, AA Thought for the Day. Strength comes from honestly telling your own experiences with drinking. In religion, they call it confession. We call it witnessing or sharing. You give personal witness, you share your past experiences, the troubles you got into, the hospitals, the jails, the breakup of your home, the money wasted, the debts, and all the foolish things you did when you were drinking. This personal witness lets out the things you had kept hidden, brings them out into the open, and you find release and strength. Am I receiving strength from my personal witnessing? Meditation for the day. We cannot fully understand the universe. The simple fact is that we cannot even define space or time. They are both boundless. In spite of all we can do to limit them, we live in a box of space and time, which we have manufactured by our own minds, and on that depends all our so-called knowledge of the universe. The simple fact is that we can never know all things, nor are we made to know them. Much of our lives must be taken on faith. Prayer for the day. I pray that my faith may be based on my own experience of the power of God in my life. I pray that I may know this one thing above all else in the universe. March 25th, AA Thought for the Day. Strength comes from coming to believe in a higher power that can help you. You can't define this higher power, but you can see how it helps other alcoholics. You hear them talk about it, and you begin to get the idea yourself. You try praying in a quiet time each morning, and you begin to feel stronger, as though your prayers were heard. So you gradually come to believe there must be a power in the world outside yourself, which is stronger than you, and to which you can turn to for help. Am I receiving strength from my faith in a higher power? Meditation for the day. Spiritual development is achieved by daily persistence in living the way you believe God wants you to live. Like wearing away of a stone by steady drops of water, so will your daily persistence wear away all of the difficulties and gain spiritual success for you. Never falter in this daily steady persistence. Go forward boldly and unafraid. God will help and strengthen you as long as you are trying to do His will. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may persist day by day in gaining spiritual experience. I pray that I may make this a lifetime work. March 26th. AA Thought for the Day. Strength also comes from working with other alcoholics. When you are trying to help a new prospect with the program, you are building up your own strength at the same time. You see the other person in the condition you might be in yourself, and it makes you resolve to stay sober, stronger than ever. Often, you help yourself more than the other person, but if you do succeed in helping the prospect to get sober, you are stronger from the experience of having helped another person. Am I receiving strength from working with others? Meditation for the day. Faith is the bridge between you and God. It is the bridge that God has ordained. If all were right and known, there would be no merit in doing right. Therefore, God has ordained that we do not see or know directly, but we can experience the power of His Spirit through our faith. It is the bridge between us and Him, which we cannot or take not as we will. There would be no morality without free will. We must make the choice ourselves. We must make the venture of belief. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may choose and decide to cross the bridge of faith. I pray that by crossing this bridge, I may receive the spiritual power I need. March 27th. AA Thought for the Day. You get the power to overcome drinking through the fellowship of other alcoholics who have found the way out. You get power by honestly sharing your past experience by a personal witness. You get power by coming to believe in a higher power, the divine principle in the universe which can help you. You get power by working with other alcoholics. In these 4 ways, thousands of alcoholics have found the power they needed to overcome drinking. Am I ready and willing to accept this power and work for it? Meditation for the day. The power of God's Spirit is the greatest power in the universe. Our conquest of each other, the great kings and conquerors, the conquest of wealth, the liberty, all amount to very little in the end. But one who conquers oneself is greater than one who conquers a city. Material things have no permanence, but God's Spirit is eternal. Everything really worthwhile in the world is the result of the power of God's Spirit. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may open myself to the power of God's Spirit. I pray that my relationships with others may be improved by this Spirit. March 28th. AA Thought for the Day. When you come into an AA meeting, you're not just coming into a meeting, you're coming into a new life. I'm always impressed by the change I see in people after they've been in AA for a while. I sometimes take an inventory of myself to see whether I have changed, and if so, in what way. Before I met AA, I was very selfish. I wanted my own way in everything. I don't believe I ever grew up. When things went wrong, I sulked like a spoiled child and often went out and got drunk. Am I still all get and no give? Meditation for the day. There are 2 things that we must have if we are going to change our way of life. One is faith, the confidence in things unseen, the fundamental goodness and purpose in the universe. The other is obedience. That is, living according to our faith. Living each day as we believe that God wants us to live, with gratitude, humility, honesty, purity, unselfishness, and love. Faith and obedience, these 2, will give us all the strength we need to overcome sin and temptation, and to live a new and more abundant life. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may have more faith and obedience. I pray that I may live a more abundant life as a result of these things. March 29th, AA Thought for the Day. Before I met AA, I was very dishonest. I lied to my spouse constantly about where I had been and what I had been doing. I took some time off from my work and pretended I had been sick, or gave up some other dishonest excuse. I was dishonest with myself, as well as with other people. I would never face myself as I really was, or admit when I was wrong. I pretended to myself that I was as good as the next person, although I suspected that I wasn't. Am I now really honest? Meditation for the day. I must live in the world and yet live apart with God. I can go forth from my secret times of communion with God to the work of the world. To get the spiritual strength I need, my inner life must be lived apart from the world. I must wear the world as a loose garment. Nothing in the world should seriously upset me, as long as my inner life is lived with God. All successful living arises from this inner life. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may live my inner life with God. I pray that nothing shall invade or destroy that secret place of peace. March 30th. AA Thought for the Day. Before I met AA, I was very unloving. From the time I went away to school, I paid very little attention to my mother and father. I was on my own and didn't even bother to keep in touch with them. After I got married, I was very unappreciative of my spouse. Many a time, I would go out all by myself to have a good time. I paid too little attention to our children and didn't try to understand them or show them affection. My few friends were only drinking companions, not real friends. Have I gotten over loving nobody but myself? Meditation for the day. Be calm, be true, be quiet. Do not get emotionally upset by anything that happens around you. Feel a deep inner security in the goodness and purpose of the universe. Be true to your highest ideals. Do not let yourself slip back into the old ways of reacting. Stick to your spiritual guns. Be calm always. Do not talk back or defend yourself too much against accusation, whether false or true. Accept criticism as well as you accept praise. Only God can judge the real you. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may not be upset by the judgment of others. I pray that I may let God be the judge of the real me. March 31st. AA Thought for the Day. Since I've been in AA, have I made a start towards becoming more unselfish? Do I no longer want my own way in everything? When things go wrong and I can't have what I want, do I no longer sulk? Am I trying not to waste money on myself? And does it make me happy to see my family and my home have all enough attention from me? Am I trying not to be all get and no give? Meditation for the day. Each day is a day of progress. Steady progress forward, if you make it so. You may not see it, but God does. He judges by the heart. Let him see your heart a simple desire always to do his will. Though you may feel your work has been spoiled or tarnished, God sees it as an offering for him. When climbing a steep hill, people are often more conscious of the weakness of their stumbling feet than of the view, the grandeur, or even the upward progress. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may persevere in all good things. I pray that I may advance each day in spite of my stumbling feet. April 2nd, AA Thought for the Day. Since I've been in AA, have I made a start towards becoming more loving to my family and friends? Do I visit my parents? Am I more appreciative of my spouse than I was before? Am I grateful to my family for having put up with me? Have I found real understanding with my children? Do I feel that the friends I found in AA are real friends? Do I believe that they are always ready to help me? And do I want to help them if I can? Do I really care now about other people? Meditation for the day. Not what you do so much as what you are. That is the miracle working power. You can be a force for good with the help of God. God is here to help you and to bless you, here to company with you. You can be a worker with God, changed by God's grace. You shed one garment of the Spirit for a better one. In time, you throw that one aside for yet another finer one, and so from character to character, you are gradually transformed. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may accept every challenge. I pray that each acceptance of a challenge may make me grow into a better person. April 3rd, AA Thought for the Day. When I was drinking, I was absolutely selfish. I thought of myself first, last, and always. The universe revolved around me at the center. When I woke up in the morning with a hangover, my only thought was how terrible I felt about what I could do to make myself feel better. And the only thing I could think of was more liquor. To quit was impossible. I couldn't see beyond myself and my own need for another drink. Can I now look out and beyond my own selfishness? Meditation for the day. Remember that the first quality of greatness is service. In a way, God is the greatest servant of all because He is always waiting for us to call on Him to help us in all good endeavors. His strength is always available to us, but we must ask it of Him through our own free will. It is a free gift, but we must sincerely seek for it. A life of service is the finest life we can live. We are here on earth to serve others. That is the beginning and the end of our real worth. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may cooperate with God in all good things. I pray that I may serve God and others and so lead a useful and happy life. April 4th, AA Thought for the Day. When I came into AA, I found men and women who had been through the same things I had been through. But now they were thinking more about how they could help others than they were about themselves. They were a lot more unselfish than I ever was. By coming to meetings and associating with them, I began to think a little less about myself and a little more about other people. I also learned that I didn't have to depend on myself alone to get out of the mess I was in. I could get a greater strength than my own. Am I now depending less on myself and more on God? Meditation for the day. You cannot help others unless you understand the person you are trying to help. To understand the problems and temptations of others, you must have been through them yourself. You must do all you can to understand others. You must study their backgrounds, their likes and dislikes, their reactions and their prejudices. When you see their weaknesses, do not confront the person with them. Share your own weaknesses, sins, and temptations. and let other people find their own convictions. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may serve as a channel for God's power to come into the lives of others. I pray that I may try to understand them. April 5th, AA Thought for the Day. People often ask what makes the AA program work. One of the answers is that AA works because it gets people away from themselves as the center of the universe, and it teaches them to rely more on the fellowship of others and on strength from God. Forgetting ourselves in fellowship, prayer, and working with others is what makes the AA program work. Are these things keeping me sober? Meditation for the day. God is the great interpreter of one human personality to another. Even personalities who are the nearest together have much in their natures that remains a sealed book to each other. And only as God enters and controls their lives are the mysteries of each revealed to the other. Each personality is so different. God alone understands perfectly the language of each and can interpret between the two. Here we find the miracles of change and the true interpretation of life. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may be in the right relationship to God. I pray that God will interpret to me the personalities of other people so that I can understand them and help them. April 6th, AA Thought for the Day. All alcoholics have personality problems. They drink to escape from life, to counteract feelings of loneliness or inferiority, or because some emotional conflict with them, so that they cannot adjust themselves to life. Alcoholics cannot stop drinking unless they find a way to solve their personality problems. That's why going on the wagon doesn't solve anything. That's why taking the pledge usually doesn't work. Was my personality problem ever solved by going on the wagon or taking the pledge? Meditation for the day. God irradiates your life with the warmth of His Spirit. You must open up like a flower to this divine irradiation. Loosen your hold on earth, its cares, and its worries. Unclasp your hold on material things. Relax your grip, and the tide of peace and serenity will flow in. Relinquish every material thing and receive it back again from God. Do not hold on to earth's treasures so firmly that your hands are too occupied to clasp God's hands as He holds them out to you in love. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may be open to receive God's blessing. I pray that I may be willing to relinquish my hold on material things, receive them back from God. April 7th, AA Thought for the Day. In AA, alcoholics find a way to solve their personality problems. They do this by recovering three things. First, they recover their personal integrity. They pull themselves together. They get honest with themselves and other people. They face themselves and their problems honestly instead of running away. They take a personal inventory of themselves to see where they really stand. Then, they face the facts instead of making excuses for themselves. Have I recovered my integrity? Meditation for the day. When trouble comes, do not say, "Why should this happen to me?" Leave yourself out of the picture. Think of other people and their troubles, and you will forget about your own. Gradually get away from yourself, and you will know the consolation of unselfish service to others. After a while, it will not matter so much what happens to you. It is not so important anymore, except as your experience can be used to help others who are in the same kind of trouble. I pray that I may become more unselfish. I pray that I may not be thrown off the track by letting the old selfishness creep back into my life. April 8th, AA Thought for the Day. Second, alcoholics recover their faith in a higher power, greater than themselves. They admit that they're helpless by themselves, and they call on that higher power for help. They surrender their lives to God as they understand Him. They put their drinking problem in God's hands and leave it there. They recover their faith in a higher power that can help them. Have I recovered my faith? Meditation for the day. You must make a stand for God. Believers in God are considered by some as peculiar people. You must even be willing to be deemed a fool for the sake of your faith. You must be ready to stand aside and let the fashions and customs of the world go by, when God's purposes are thereby forwarded. Be known by the marks that distinguish a believer in God. These are honesty, purity, unselfishness, love, gratitude, and humility. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may be ready to profess my belief in God before others. I pray that I may not be turned aside by the skepticism and cynicism of unbelievers. April 9th, AA Thought for the Day. Third, alcoholics recover their proper relationship with other people. They think less about themselves and more about others. They try to help other alcoholics. They make new friends so that they're no longer lonely. They try to live a life of service instead of selfishness. All their relationships with other people are improved. They solve their personality problems by recovering their personal integrity, their faith in a higher power, and their way of fellowship and service to others. Is my drinking problem solved as long as my personality problem is solved? Meditation for the day. All that depresses you, all that fear, is really powerless to harm you. These things are but phantoms. So arise from earth's bonds, from depression, distrust, fear, and all that hinders your new life. Arise to beauty, joy, peace, and work inspired by love. Rise from death to life. You do not need to fear death. All past sins are forgiven if you live in love and work with God. Let nothing hinder your new life. Seek to know more and more of that new way of living. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may let God live in me as I work for Him. I pray that I may go out into the sunlight and work with God. April 10th, AA Thought for the Day. When I came into AA, I came into a new world, a sober world, a world of sobriety, peace, serenity, and happiness. But I know if I take just one drink, I'll go right back into that old world, that alcoholic's world, the world of drunkenness, conflict, and misery. The alcoholic world is not a pleasant place for an alcoholic to live in. Looking at the world through the bottom of a whiskey glass is no fun after you become an alcoholic. Do I want to go back to the alcoholic world? Meditation for the day. Pride stands sentinel at the door of the heart and shuts out the love of God. God can only dwell with the humble and the obedient. Obedience to God's will is the key to unlocking the door to God's kingdom. You cannot obey God to the best of your ability without in time realizing God's love and responding to that love. The rough stone steps of obedience lead up to where the mosaic floor of love and joy is laid. Where God's Spirit is, there is your home. There is heaven for you. Prayer for the day. I pray that God may make his home in my humble and obedient heart. I pray that I may obey his guidance to the best of my ability. April 11th, AA Thought for the Day. In that alcoholic's world, one drink always leads to another, and you can't stop until you're paralyzed. And the next morning, it begins all over again. You'll eventually land in a hospital or jail cell. You'll lose your job. Your home is broken up. You're always in a mess. You are on the merry-go-round, and you can't get off. You are in a squirrel cage, and you can't get out. Am I convinced that the alcoholic's world is not a pleasant place for me to live in? Meditation for the day. I must learn to accept self-discipline. I must try never to yield 1 point that I have already won. I must not let myself go in resentments, hates, fears, pride, lust, or gossip. Even if the discipline keeps me separated from some people who are without discipline, nevertheless, I will carry on. I may have some different ways and a different standard of living than some others. I may be actuated by different motives than some people, but I will try to live the way I believe God wants me to live, no matter what others say. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may be an example to others of a better way of living. I pray that I may carry on in spite of hindrances. April 12th, AA Thought for the Day. This sober world is a pleasant place for an alcoholic to live in. Once you've gotten out of your alcoholic fog, you find that the world looks good. You find real friends in AA. You get a job. You feel good in the morning. You eat a good breakfast, and you do a good day's work at home or outside. And your family loves you and welcomes you because you're sober. Am I convinced that this sober world is a pleasant place for an alcoholic to live in? Meditation for the day. Our need is God's opportunity. First, we must recognize our need. Often, this means helplessness before some weakness or sickness and an admission of our need for help. Next comes faith in the power of God's Spirit available to us to meet that need. Before any need can be met, our faith must find expression. That expression of faith is all God needs to manifest his power in our lives. Faith is the key that unlocks the storehouse of God's resources. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may first admit my needs. I pray that then I may have faith that God will meet those needs in the way which is best for me. April 13th, AA Thought for the Day. Having found my way into this new world by the grace of God and the help of AA, am I going to take that first drink when I know that just one drink will change my whole world? Am I deliberately going back to the suffering of the alcoholic world, or am I going to hang out in the happiness of the sober world? Is there any doubt about the answer? With God's help, I am going to hang out with AA with both hands. Meditation for the day. I will try to make the world better and happier by my presence in it. I will try to help other people find the way God wants them to live. I will try to be on the side of good in the stream of righteousness, where all things work for good. I will do my duty persistently and faithfully, not sparing myself. I will be gentle with all people. I will try to see other people's difficulty and help them to correct it. I will always pray to God to act as an interpreter between me and the other person. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may live in the spirit of prayer. I pray that I may depend on God for the strength I need to help me to do my part in making the world a better place. April 14th, AA Thought for the Day. A police captain once told about certain cases he had come across in his police work. The cause of the tragedy in each case was drunkenness. He told his audience about a man who got into an argument with his wife while he was drunk, and he beat her to death. Then he went out and drank some more. The police captain also told of a woman who got too near the edge of a hole in a quarry when she was drunk and fell 150 feet to her death. When I read or hear these stories, do I think about our motto, but for the grace of God? Meditation for the day. I must keep balance by keeping spiritual things at the center of my life. God will give me this poise and balance if I pray for it. This poise will give me power in dealing with the lives of others. This balance will manifest itself more and more in my own life. I should keep material things in their proper place and keep spiritual things at the center of my life. Then I will be at peace amid the distractions of everyday living. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may dwell with God at the center of my life. I pray that I may keep that inner peace at the center of my being. April 15th, AA Thought for the Day. Terrible things could have happened to any of us. We never will know what might have happened to us when we were drunk. We usually thought, that couldn't happen to me. But any one of us could have killed somebody or have been killed ourselves if we were drunk enough. But fear of these things never kept us from drinking. Do I believe that in AA we have something more effective than fear? Meditation for the day. I must keep calm and unmoved in the vicissitudes of life. I must go back into the silence of communion with God to recover this calm when it's lost, even for that one moment. I will accomplish more by this calmness than by all the activities of a long day. At all cost, I will keep calm. I can solve nothing when I'm agitated. I should keep away from things that are upsetting emotionally. I should run on an even keel and not get tipped over by emotional upsets. I should seek for the things that are calm and good and true and stick to those things. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may not argue nor contend, but merely state calmly what I believe in to be true. I pray that I may keep myself in that state of calmness that comes from faith in God's purpose for the world. April 16th, AA Thought for the Day. In AA, we have insurance. Our faith in God is a kind of insurance against the terrible things that might happen to us if we ever drink again. By putting our drinking problem in the hands of God, we've taken out sort of an insurance policy, which insures us against the ravages of drink. As our homes are insured against destruction by fire, Am I paying my AA insurance premiums regularly? Meditation for the day. I must try to love all humanity. Love comes from thinking of every man or woman as your brother or sister, because they are all children of God. This way of thinking makes me care enough about them to really want to help them. I must put this kind of love into action by serving others. Love means no severe judgment, no resentments, no malicious gossip, and no destructive criticism. It means patience, understanding, compassion, and helpfulness. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may realize that God loves me, since He is the Father of us all. I pray that I, in turn, may have love for all His children. April 17th, AA Thought for the Day. Every time we go to an AA meeting, every time we say the Lord's Prayer, every time we have a quiet time before breakfast, we're paying a premium on our insurance against taking that first drink. And every time we help out another alcoholic, we're making a large payment on our drinking insurance. We're making sure that our policy doesn't lapse. Am I building up an endowment and serenity, peace, and happiness that will put me on easy street for the rest of my life? Meditation for the day. I gained faith by my own experience of God's power in my life. The constant, persistent recognition of God's Spirit in all my personal relationships. The ever accumulating weight of evidence in support of God's guidance. The numberless instances which can seemingly chance or wonderful coincidence can be traced to God's purpose in my life. All these things gradually engender a feeling of wonder, humility, and gratitude to God. These, in turn, are followed by a more sure and abiding faith in God and His purpose. Prayer for the day. I pray that my faith may be strengthened every day. I pray that I may find confirmation of my life in the good things that have come into my life. April 18th, AA Thought for the Day. As I look back over my drinking career, have I learned that you take out of life what you put into it? When I put drinking into my life, did I take out a lot of bad things? Hospitals with DTs, jails for drunken driving, loss of a job, loss of home and family. When I put drinking into my life, was almost everything I took out bad? Meditation for the day. I should strive for a friendliness and helpfulness that will affect all who come near me. I should try to see something to love in them. I should welcome them, bestow little courtesies and understandings on them, and help them if they would ask for help. I must send no one away without a word of cheer, a feeling that I really care about them. God may have put the impulse in someone's despairing mind to come to me. I must not fail God by repulsing that person. They may not want to communicate with me unless they are sure of a warm welcome. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may warmly welcome all who come to me for help. I pray that I may make them feel that I really care. April 19th, AA Thought for the Day. Since I've been putting sobriety into my life, I've been taking out a lot of good things. I can describe it best as a kind of quiet satisfaction. I feel good. I feel right with the world, on the right side of the fence. As long as I put sobriety into my life, almost everything I take out is good. The satisfaction you get out of living a sober life is made up of a lot of little things. You have the ambition to do things you didn't feel like doing when you were drinking. Am I getting satisfaction out of living a sober life? Meditation for the day. It is a glorious way, the upward way. There are wonderful discoveries in the realm of the spirit. There are tender intimacies in the quiet times with communion with God. There is an amazing, almost incomprehensible understanding of the other person. On the upward way, you can have all the strength you need from that higher power. You cannot make too many demands on him for strength. He gives you all the power you need as long as you are moving along the upward way. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may see the beautiful horizons ahead on the upward way. I pray that I may keep going forward to the more abundant life. April 20th, AA Thought for the Day. The satisfaction you get out of living a sober life is made up of a lot of little things, but they add up to a satisfactory and happy life. You take out of life what you put into it. So I'd say to people coming into AA, don't worry about what life will be like without liquor. Just hang in there, and a lot of good things will happen to you. And you'll have that feeling of quiet satisfaction and peace and serenity and gratitude for the grace of God. Is my life becoming really worth living? Meditation for the day. There are two paths, one up and one down. We have been given free will to choose either path. We are captains of our souls to this extent only. We can choose the good or the bad. Once we have chosen the wrong path, we go down, and down, eventually to death. But if we choose the right path, we go up and up until we come to the resurrection day. On the wrong path, we have no power for good because we do not choose to ask for it. But on the right path, we are on the side of good, and we have all the power of God's Spirit behind us. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may be in the stream of goodness. I pray that I may be on the right side and on the side of all good in the universe. April 21st, AA Thought for the Day. After we've been in AA for a while, we find out that if we're going to stay sober, we have to be humble people. The men and women in AA who have achieved sobriety are all humble people. When I stop to think that but for the grace of God, I might be drunk right now, I can't help feeling humble. Gratitude to God for His grace makes me humble. When I think of the kind of person I was not so long ago, when I think of the kind of person I left behind me, I have nothing to be proud of. Am I grateful and humble? Meditation for the day. I must arise from the death of sin and selfishness and put on a new life of integrity. All the old sins and temptations must be laid in the grave, and a new existence rise from the ashes. Yesterday is gone. All my sins are forgiven if I am honestly trying to do God's will today. Today is here, the time of resurrection and renewal. I must start now, today, to build a new life of complete faith and trust in God and a determination to do His will in all things. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may share in making the world a better place to live in. I pray that I may do what I can to bring goodness a little nearer to the earth. April 22nd, AA Thought for the Day. People believe in AA when they see it work. An actual demonstration is what convinces them. What they read in books, what they hear people say, doesn't always convince them. But when they see a real, honest to goodness change take place in a person, a change from a drunk to a sober, useful citizen, that's something they can believe because they can see it. There's really only one thing that proves to me that AA works. Have I seen the change in people who come into AA? Meditation for the day. Divine control and unquestioning obedience to God are the only conditions necessary for a spiritual life. Divine control means absolute faith and trust in God, a belief that God is the divine principle in the universe, and that He is the intelligence and the love that controls the universe. Unquestioning obedience to God means living every day the way you believe God wants you to live, constantly seeking the guidance of God in every situation, and being willing to do the right thing at all times. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may always be under divine control, and I always practice unquestioning obedience to God. I pray that I may always be ready to serve Him. April 23, AA Thought for the Day. Men and women keep coming into AA, licked by alcohol, often given up by doctors as hopeless cases. They themselves admitting they're hopeless to stop drinking. When I see these men and women get sober and stay sober over a period of months and years, I know that AA works. The change I see in people who come into AA not only convinces me that AA works, but it also convinces me that there must be a power greater than ourselves which helps us to make that change. Am I convinced that a higher power can help me to change? Meditation for the day. Cooperation with God is the great necessity for our lives. All else follows naturally. Cooperation with God is the result of our consciousness of His presence. Guidance is bound to come to us as we live more and more with God. As our consciousness becomes more and more attuned to the great consciousness of the universe, we must have many quiet times when we not so much ask to be shown and led by God as to feel and realize His presence. New spiritual growth comes naturally from cooperation with God. Prayer for the day. I pray that God may supply me with strength and show me the direction in which He wants me to grow. I pray that these things may come naturally from my cooperation with Him. April 24th, AA Thought for the Day. It has been proved that we alcoholics can't get sober by our own willpower. We failed again and again. Therefore, I believe there must be a higher power which helps me. I think of that power as the grace of God, and I pray to God every morning for the strength to stay sober today. I know that this power is there because it never fails to help me. Do I believe that AA works through the grace of God? Meditation for the day. Once I am born of the Spirit, that is my life's breath. Within me is the life of life, so that I can never perish. The life that down the ages has kept God's children through peril, adversity, and sorrow, I must never try to doubt or worry, but follow where the life of the Spirit leads. How often, when little I know of it, God goes before me to prepare the way, to soften a heart, to overrule a resentment. As the life of the Spirit grows, natural wants become less important. Prayer for the day. I pray that my life may become centered in God more than in self. I pray that my will may be directed towards doing His will. April 25th, AA Thought for the Day. I don't believe that AA works because I read it in a book or because I hear people say so. I believe it because I see people getting sober and staying sober. An actual demonstration is what convinces me. When I see the change in people, I can't help believing that AA works. We could listen to talk about AA all day and still not believe it. But when we see it work, we have to believe it. Seeing is believing. Do I see AA work every day? Meditation for the day. Try saying, God bless her or him, of anyone who is in disharmony with you. Also say it of those who are in trouble with their own fault. Say it willing, that showers of blessings may fall upon them. Let God do the blessing. Leave it to God the necessary correcting or disciplining. You should only desire blessing for them. Leave God's work to God. Occupy yourself with the task that He gives you to do. God's blessing will also break down all your own difficulties and build up all your successes. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may use God's goodness so that it will be a blessing to others. I pray that I may accept God's blessing so that I will have harmony, beauty, joy, and happiness. April 26th, AA Thought for the Day. The AA program is one of submission, release, and action. When we're drinking, we're submitting to a power greater than ourselves, liquor. Our own wills are no use against the power of liquor. One drink and we're sunk. In AA, we stop submitting to the power of liquor. Instead, we submit to a power also greater than ourselves, which we call God. Have I submitted myself to that higher power? Meditation for the day. Ceaseless activity is not God's plan for your life. Times of withdrawal for renewed strength are always necessary. Wait for the faintest tremor of fear and stop all work. Everything, and rest before God until you are strong again. Deal in the same way with all tired feelings. Then you need rest of body and renewal of spirit force. St. Paul said, I can do all things through him who strengthens me. This does not mean that you are to do all things and then rely on God to find strength. It means you are to do the things you believe God wants you to do, and only when you can rely on His supply of power. Prayer for the day. I pray that God's Spirit may be my master always. I pray that I may learn how to rest and listen, as well as how to work. April 27th, AA Thought for the Day. By submitting to God, we're released from the power of liquor. It has no more hold on us. We're also released from the things that were holding us down: pride, selfishness, and fear. And we're free to grow into a new life, which is so much better than the old life that there's no comparison. This release gives us serenity and peace with the world. Have I been released from the power of alcohol? Meditation for the day. We know God by spiritual vision. We feel that He is beside us. We feel His presence. Contact with God is not made by the senses. Spirit consciousness replaces sight. Since we cannot see God, we have to perceive Him by spiritual perception. God has to span the physical and the spiritual with the gift to us of spiritual vision. Many persons, though they cannot see God, have had a clear spiritual consciousness of Him. We are inside a box of space and time, but we know that there must be something outside of that box. Limited space, limitless space, eternity of time, and God. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may have a consciousness of God's presence. I pray that God will give me spiritual vision. April 28th, AA Thought for the Day. We're so glad to be free from liquor that we do something about it. We get into action. We come to meetings regularly. We go out and try to help other alcoholics. We pass on the good news whenever we get a chance. In a spirit of thankfulness to God, we get into action. The AA program is simple. Submit yourself to God, find release from liquor, and get into action. Do these things and keep doing them, and you're all set for the rest of your life. Have I gotten into action? Meditation for the day. God's eternal quest must be the tracking down of souls. You should join Him in His quest. Through briars, through waste places, through glades, up mountain heights, down into valleys, God leads you. But ever with His leadership goes your helping hand. Glorious to follow where the leader goes. You are seeking lost sheep. You are bringing the good news into places where it has not yet been known before. You may not know which soul you will help, but you can leave all results to God. Just go with Him in His eternal quest for souls. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may follow God in His eternal quest for souls. I pray that I may offer God my helping hand. April 29th, AA Thought for the Day. The AA program is one of faith, hope, and charity. It's a program of hope because when new members come into AA, the first thing they get is hope. They hear older members tell about how they had been through the same kind of hell that they have, and how they found the way out through AA. And this gives them hope that if others can do it, they can do it. Is hope still strong in me? Meditation for the day. The rule of God's kingdom is perfect order, perfect harmony, perfect supply, perfect love, perfect honesty, perfect obedience. There is no discord in God's kingdom, only some things still unconquered in God's children. The difficulties of life are caused by disharmony in the individual man or woman. People lack power because they lack harmony with God and with each other. They think that God fails because power is not manifested in their lives. God does not fail. People fail because they are out of harmony with Him. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may be in harmony with God and with other people. I pray that this harmony will result in strength and success. April 30th, AA Thought for the Day. The AA program is one of faith because we find that we must have faith in a power greater than ourselves if we are going to get sober. We're helpless before alcohol, but when we turn our drinking problem over to God and have faith that He can give us all the strength we need, then we have the drinking problem licked. Faith and the divine principle in the universe that we call God is the essential part of the AA program. Is faith still strong in me? Meditation for the day. Each one of us is a child of God, and as such, we are full of the promise of spiritual growth. A young person is like the springtime of the year. The full time of the fruit is not yet, but there is promise of the blossom. There is a spark of the divine in each one of us. Everyone has some of God's Spirit that can be developed by spiritual exercise. Know that your life is full of glad promise. Such blessings can be yours, such joys, such wonders, as long as you develop in the sunshine of God's love. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may develop the divine spark within me. I pray that by so doing I may fulfill the promise of a more abundant life. May 1st, AA Thought for the Day. The AA program is one of charity because the real meaning of the word charity is to care about other people, to really want to help them. To get the full benefit of the program, we must try to help other alcoholics. We may try to help somebody and think we have failed, but the seed we have planted may bear some fruit one time. We never know the results even a word of ours might have, but the main thing is to have charity for others, a real desire to help them, whether we succeed or not. Do I have real charity? Meditation for the day. All material things, the universe, the world, even our own bodies, may be eternal thought expressed in time and space. The more the physicists and astronomers reduce matter, the more it becomes a mathematical formula, which is thought. In the final analysis, matter is thought. When eternal thought expresses itself within the framework of space and time, it becomes matter. Our thoughts within the box of space and time cannot know anything firsthand except material things. But we can deduce that outside the box of space and time is eternal thought, which we call God. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may be a true expression of eternal thought. I pray that God's thoughts may work through my thoughts. May 2nd, AA Thought for the Day. In AA, we often hear the slogan, "Easy does it." Alcoholics always worry or do everything to excess. They drink too much. They worry too much. They have too many resentments. They hurt themselves physically and mentally by too much of everything. So when they come in AA, they have to learn to take it easy. None of us knows how much longer we have to live. It's probable that we couldn't have lived very long if we had continued to drink the way we used to. By stopping drinking, we have increased our chances of living for a while longer. Have I learned to take it easy? Meditation for the day. You must be before you can do. To accomplish much, be much. In all cases, the doing must be the expression of the being. It is foolish to think that we can accomplish much in personal relationships without first preparing ourselves by being honest, pure, unselfish, and loving. We must choose the good and keep choosing it before we are ready to be used by God to accomplish anything worthwhile. We will not be given the opportunities until we are ready for them. Quiet times of communion with a higher power are good preparation for creative action. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may constantly prepare myself for better things to come. I pray that I may only have opportunities when I am ready for them. May 3rd, AA Thought for the Day. AA teaches us to take it easy. We learn how to relax and to stop worrying about the past or the future. To give up our resentments and hates and tempers. To stop being critical of people and to try to help them instead. That's what easy does it means. So in the time that's left to me to live, I'm going to try to take it easy. To relax and not to worry. To try to be helpful to others and trust God. For what's left of my life, is my motto going to be, easy does it? Meditation for the day. I must overcome myself before I can truly forgive other people for injuries done to me. The self in me cannot forgive injuries. The very thought of wrongs means that myself is in the foreground. Since the self cannot forgive, I must overcome my selfishness. I must cease trying to forgive those who fretted and wronged me. It is a mistake for me to even think about these injuries. I must aim at overcoming myself in the daily life, and then I will find there is nothing in me that resembles the injury, because the only thing injured is my selfishness, and it is gone. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may hold no resentments. I pray that my fears and my mind may be washed clean of all hates and fears. May 4th, AA Thought for the Day. When I was drinking, I always tried to build myself up. I used to tell tall stories about myself. I told them so often that I have believed some of them. Now, even though I know they aren't true. I used to hang around the lowbrow bar rooms so I could feel superior to the other customers. The reason I always tried to build myself up was that I knew deep down in my heart that I really didn't amount to anything. It was a kind of defense against my feeling of inferiority. Do I still build myself up? Meditation for the day. God thought about the universe and brought it into being. His thought brought me into being. I must think God's thought after him. I must often keep my mind occupied with the thoughts about God and meditate on the way he wants me to live. I must train my mind constantly in times of communion with God. It is the work of a lifetime to develop full stature spiritually. This is what I am on earth for. It gives meaning to my life. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may think God's thoughts after him. I pray that I may live as he wants me to live. May 5th, AA Thought for the Day. I had to show off and boast so that people would think I had amounted to something when, of course, both they and I knew that I really didn't amount to anything. I did not fool anyone. Although I've been sober for quite a while, the old habit of building myself up is still with me. I still have a tendency to think too well of myself and to pretend to be more than I really am. Am I always in danger of becoming conceited just because I'm sober? Meditation for the day. I cannot ascertain the spiritual with my intellect. I can only do it by my own faith and spiritual faculties. I must think of God more with my heart than with my head. I can breathe in God's very spirit in the life around me. I can keep my eyes turned toward the good things in the world. I am shut up in a box of space and time, but I can open a window in that box by faith. I can empty my mind of all the limitations of material things. I can sense the eternal. Prayer for the day. I pray that whatever is good I may have. I pray that I may leave to God the choice of what good will come to me. May 6th, AA Thought for the Day. I've noticed that the ones who do the most for AA are not in the habit of boasting about it. The danger of building myself up too much is that if I do, I'm in danger of having a fall. That pattern of thought goes with drinking. If one side of a boat gets too far up out of the water, it's liable to tip over. Building myself up and drinking go together. One leads to the other. So, if I'm going to stay sober, I've got to keep small. Have I got the right perspective on myself? Meditation for the day. The way sometimes seems long and weary. So many people today are weary. The weariness of others must often be shared by me. The weary and the heavy laden, when they come to me, should be helped to find the rest that I have found. There is only one sure cure for world weariness, and that is turning to spiritual things. In order to help bring about the turning of the weary world to God, I must dare to suffer. Dare to conquer selfishness in myself, and dare to be filled with spiritual peace in the face of all the weariness of the world. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may be a help to discouraged people. I pray that I may have the courage to help bring about what the weary world needs but does not know how to get. May 7th, AA Thought for the Day. It is very important to keep in a grateful frame of mind if we want to stay sober. We should be grateful that we're living in a day and age when alcoholics aren't treated as they often used to be treated before Alcoholics Anonymous was started. In the old days, every town had its town drunk, who was regarded with scorn and ridiculed by the rest of the townspeople. We have come into AA and have found all the sympathy, understanding, and fellowship that we could ask for. There's no other group like AA in the world. Am I grateful? Meditation for the day. God takes our efforts for good and blesses them. God needs our efforts. We need God's blessing. Together, they mean spiritual success. Our efforts are necessary. We cannot merely relax and drift with the tide. We must often direct our efforts against the tide of materialism around us. When difficulties come, our efforts are needed to surmount them. But God directs our efforts in the right channels, and God's power is necessary to help us choose the right. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may choose the right. I pray that I may have God's blessing and direction in all my efforts for good. May 8th, AA Thought for the Day. I'm grateful that I found a program in AA that could keep me sober. I'm grateful that AA has shown me the way to faith in a higher power, because the renewing of that faith has changed my way of life. And I've found a happiness and contentment that I had forgotten existed, by simply believing in God and trying to live the kind of a life that I know He wants me to live. As long as I stay grateful, I'll stay sober. Am I in a grateful frame of mind? Meditation for the day. God can work through you better when you are not hurrying. Go very slowly, very quietly, from one duty to the next, taking time to rest and pray in between. Do not be too busy. Take everything in order. Venture often into the rest of God, and you will find peace. All work that results from resting with God is good work. Claim the power to work miracles in human lives. Know that you can do many things through the higher power. Know that you can do good things through God who rests you and gives you strength. Partake regularly of rest and prayer. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may not be in too much of a hurry. I pray that I may take time out often to rest with God. May 9th, AA Thought for the Day. We alcoholics used so little self-control when we were drinking. We were so absolutely selfish that it does us good to give up something once in a while. Using self-discipline and denying ourselves a few things is good for us. At first, giving up liquor is a big enough job for all of us, even with God's help. But later on, we can practice self-discipline in other ways to keep a firm grip on our minds so that we don't start any wishful thinking. If we daydream too much, we'll be in danger of slipping. Am I practicing enough self-discipline? Meditation for the day. In material things, you must rely on your own wisdom and that of others. In spiritual things, you cannot rely so much on your own wisdom as on God's guidance. In dealing with personalities, it is a mistake to step out too much on your own. You must try to be guided by God in all human relationships. You cannot accomplish much of value in dealing with people until God knows you are ready. You alone do not have the power or wisdom to put things right between people. You must rely on God to help you in these vital matters. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may rely on God in dealing with people's problems. I pray that I may try to follow His guidance in all personal relationships. May 10th, AA Thought for the Day. One thing that keeps me sober is a feeling of loyalty to the other members of the group. I know I'd be letting them down if I ever took a drink. When I was drinking, I wasn't loyal to anybody. I should have been loyal to my family, but I wasn't. I let them down by my drinking. When I came into AA, I found a group of people who were not only helping each other to stay sober, but who were loyal to each other by staying sober themselves. Am I loyal to my group? Meditation for the day. Calmness is constructive of good. Agitation is destructive of good. I should not rush into action. I should first be still and know that He is God. Then I should act only as God directs me through my conscience. Only trust, perfect trust in God, can keep me calm when all around me are agitated. Calmness is trust in action. I should seek all things that can help me to cultivate calmness. To attain material things, the world learns to attain speed. To attain spiritual things, I have to learn to attain a state of calm. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may learn how to have inner peace. I pray that I may be calm so that God can work through me. May 11th, AA Thought for the Day. We can depend on those members of any group who have gone all out for the program. They come to meetings. They work with other alcoholics. We don't have to worry about their slipping. They're loyal members of the group. I'm trying to be a loyal member of the group. When I'm tempted to take a drink, I tell myself that if I did, I'd be letting down the other members who are the best friends I have. Am I going to let them down if I can help it? Meditation for the day. Wherever there is true fellowship and love between people, God's Spirit is always there, as the divine third. In all human relationships, the divine Spirit is what brings them together. When a life is changed through the channel of another person, it is God, the divine third, who always makes the change, using the person as a means. The moving power behind all spiritual things, all personal relationships between people, is God, the divine third, who is always there. No personal relationships can be entirely right without the presence of God's Spirit. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may be used as a channel by God's Spirit. I pray that I may feel that the divine third is always there to help me. May 12th, AA Thought for the Day. When we come into AA looking for a way out of drinking, we really need a lot more than that. We need fellowship. We need to get the things that are troubling us out into the open. We need a new outlet for our energies, and we need a new strength beyond ourselves that will help us face life instead of running away from it. In AA, we find these things that we need. Have I found the things that I need? Meditation for the day. Turn out all thoughts of doubt and fear and resentments. Never tolerate them if you can help it. Bar the windows and doors of your mind against them, as you would bar your home against a thief who would steal in to take away your treasures. What greater treasures can you have than faith and courage and love? All these are stolen from you by doubt and fear and resentment. Face each day with peace and hope. They are results of true faith in God. Faith gives you a feeling of protection and safety that you can get in no other way. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may feel protected and safe, but not only when I am in the harbor. I pray that I may have protection and safety even in the midst of the storms of life. May 13th, AA Thought for the Day. In AA, we find fellowship and release and strength. And having found these things, the real reasons for our drinking are taken away. Then, drinking has no more justification in our minds. We no longer need to fight against drinking. Drinking just naturally leaves us. At first, we are sorry that we can't drink, but we get so that we are glad that we don't have to drink. Am I glad that I don't have to drink? Meditation for the day. Never try to judge. The human mind is so delicate and so complex that only its maker can know it wholly. Each mind is so different, actuated by such different motives, controlled by such different circumstances, influenced by such different sufferings. You cannot know all the influences that have gone to make up a personality. Therefore, it is impossible for you to judge wholly that personality. But God knows that person wholly, and He can change it. Leave it to God the unraveling of the puzzles of personality, and leave it to God to teach you the proper understanding. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may not judge other people. I pray that I may be certain that God can set right what is wrong in every personality. May 14th, AA Thought for the Day. Having gotten over drinking, we have only just begun to enjoy the benefits of AA. We find new friends so that we are no longer lonely. We find new relationships with our families so that we are happy at home. We find release from our troubles and worries through a new way of looking at things. We find an outlet for our energies in helping other people. Am I enjoying these benefits of AA? Meditation for the day. The kingdom of heaven is within you. God sees, as no one can see, what is within you. He sees you growing more and more like Himself. That is your reason for existence, to grow more and more like God, to develop more and more the Spirit of God within you. You can often see in others those qualities and aspirations that you yourself possess. So also can God recognize His own Spirit in you. Your motives and aspirations can only be understood by those who have attained the same spiritual level as you have. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may not expect complete understanding from others. I pray that I may only expect this from God as I try to grow more like Him. May 15th, AA Thought for the Day. In AA, we find a new strength and peace from the realization that there must be a power greater than ourselves that is running the universe, and that is on our side when we live a good life. So the AA program really never ends. You begin by overcoming drink, and you go on from there to many new opportunities for happiness and usefulness. Am I really enjoying the full benefits of AA? Meditation for the day. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. We should not seek material things first, but seek spiritual things first, and material things will come to us, as we honestly work for them. Many people seek material things first, and they think they can grow into knowledge of spiritual things. You cannot serve God and mammon at the same time. The first requisites of an abundant life are the spiritual things: honesty, purity, unselfishness, and love. Until you have these qualities, quantities of material things are of little real use to you. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may put much effort into acquiring spiritual things. I pray that I may not expect good things until I am right spiritually. May 16th, AA Thought for the Day. In the story of the Good Samaritan, the wayfarer fell among robbers, and was left lying in the gutter, half dead, and a priest and a Levite both passed by on the other side of the road. But the Good Samaritan was moved with compassion, and came to him, and bound up his wounds, and brought him to an inn, and took care of him. Do I treat another alcoholic like the priest and the Levite, or like the Good Samaritan? Meditation for the day. Never weary in prayer. When one day you see how unexpectedly your prayer has been answered, then you will deeply regret that you have prayed so little. Prayer changes things for you. Practice praying until your trust in God has become strong. And then pray on, because it has become so much a habit that you need it daily. Keep praying until prayer seems to become communion with God. That is the note on which true times of prayer should end. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may form the habit of daily prayer. I pray that I may find the strength I need as a result of this communion. May 17th, AA Thought for the Day. A lot of well-meaning people treat alcoholics like the priest and the Levite. They pass by on the other side by scorning them and telling them what low people they are, with no willpower. Whereas they really have fallen for alcohol, in the same way as the man in the story fell among the robbers, and the member of AA who is working with others is like the Good Samaritan. Am I moved with compassion? Do I take care of another alcoholic whenever I can? Meditation for the day. I must constantly live in preparation for something better to come. All of my life is a preparation for something better. I must anticipate the morning to come. I must feel, in the night of sorrow, that understanding joy that tells of confident expectation of better things to come. Sorrow may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning. Know that God has something better in store for you, as long as you are making yourself ready for it. All of your existence in this world is a training for a better life to come. Prayer for the day. I pray that when life is over, I will return to an eternal, spaceless life with God. I pray that I may make this life a preparation for a better life to come.